I need to be motivated. I need to find the motivation to do whatever. It's absolute BS. From everyone always telling me or somebody else, I just need to find motivation. Guess what? It's not going to happen. When I ask this one question of men, okay, would you die for your kids? It's always, of course I would. I would take a bullet for them in a second. My question back to them is, then why aren't you choosing to live for your kids? Why aren't you choosing to live for yourself? Why are we waiting for this motivation to suddenly appear in our lives? And quite frankly, it doesn't. It won't. So here's the thing. It's not what we say. It's what. All right, gents, I'm going to be real with you. And by the way, I have been in this camp as well. And that is, we say the thing either out loud or we say it inside. Either way, I just don't feel like it. I need to be motivated. I need to find the motivation to do whatever. Hey, if you turned in last week, you know we're talking all April around motivation and execution. That's what these solo shows on Friday is all about. I know we're talking about first downs, we're talking about field goals, we're talking about fumbles. This could be a fumble, but we could easily turn this into a pick six and go get a touchdown. So if I could tell you guys this, how many times I have heard this over the past decade of doing this work. And by the way, I actually through college, I used to be a personal trainer as well. It's actually how I paid for college. And this whole thing around, I just need to be motivated. I just need to find my motivation. It's absolute BS. In fact, if I had $1 for every single time I've either heard that or I've actually have said that myself, right? Because I'm in this camp too, I would probably be able to buy a Peloton for every guy in our community, as well as nannies and even marriage counseling. Probably have that much money if I could just add up everything I would have made from everyone always telling me or somebody else, I just need to find motivation. Guess what? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Let me share a story with you really quickly here. I bet any guy listening to this show would not have a problem finding motivation if his kid got up at 2 a.m. in the morning and was puking SpaghettiOs all over the carpet because he or she was so sick. I bet you anything, if you're a listener of this show, you would spring out of bed, clean it up, comfort your kid, make sure that they were okay, put your kid back to sleep, and maybe try to get some shut-eye until like maybe 3, 4, 5 a.m. on, or maybe you'd be lucky if you even fell back to sleep. But you would not have a problem finding motivation to help your kid. You probably also wouldn't find any resistance in yourself. You'd be very motivated that if your house caught on fire, you would grab your kids and your family. You would not have any issues whatsoever finding motivation to grab your family and get out of that house, right? When it comes to avoiding death, right, or avoiding harm, we are insanely motivated. We'll do anything. I mean, there have been stories about parents who have literally picked up a car, at least enough to get their kid out from under it. If a kid got stuck under a car some way, shape, or form, or they got run over or whatever, right? We've heard stories about that. We never have trouble finding motivation to help our kids in a situation like that, right? If your buddy calls you at 3 a.m. because he's way too drunk to drive home and he's asking you like, hey man, I really need a ride home. I know it's 3 a.m., but can you give me a ride home? Maybe it's not even your friend. Maybe it's your brother or something like that. Maybe it's your sister. Maybe it's a parent. You are not going to find any problems with motivation for a request like that. Yet, when I ask this one question of men, when they come into our ecosystem, I'm like, hey, would you die for your kids? It's always, of course I would. I would take a bullet for them in a second. My question back to them is, then why aren't you choosing to live for your kids? Why aren't you choosing to live for yourself? Why are we waiting for this motivation to suddenly somehow appear in our lives? And quite frankly, it doesn't. It won't. So here's the thing. It's not what we say. It's what we do. If we are saying out loud, man, I really should go to the gym. I just don't feel motivated. I should really clean out the garage, but I just don't feel really motivated to do it. You know, I need to save enough money for an emergency fund, but I just feel really overwhelmed and I don't feel motivated to do it. When we say these things out loud, or even if we don't say them at all, we just operate in that way. We're actually teaching our kids to do the exact same thing. So when we're waiting for motivation and we share that, like, I just need to be motivated, what we're actually teaching our kids by the way that we're living or the way that they see us live is like, well, motivation is this thing that we have to wait for, to be inspired, to do something different, to do something that I really, really want to do. I just don't feel like doing it. But this whole cool thing called motivation will somehow appear and I will feel motivated and inspired to go do it. We see this a lot too with crisis. So, and I always like to compare some things to health, but a lot of us won't take action in our lives, or we know people who won't take action in their lives until they have like some sort of health crisis. Maybe you know somebody who drinks too much or smokes too much weed or eats really unhealthy or doesn't exercise. And they just are like, whatever, man, I just want to be healthy. I'm not really motivated to do anything about this. I'm not motivated to work out. That's for losers. Like, I want to be happy. I want to enjoy my life. I want to do these things. I want to eat the way I want. I want to do what I want. All the while, they're pretty darn miserable. And then they have a health crisis. They have a heart attack. They have a stroke. They have that scare with like, hey, you're on the brink of type 2 diabetes because of how you're treating your body. Well, suddenly, oh my gosh, I'm motivated. But we're motivated by fear and we're motivated by crisis. What would it look like if we didn't have to wait for a crisis to be motivated? Because in all honesty, it's complete and total BS. It's a lie. Because the thing of inspirational motivation just suddenly appearing out of nowhere, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Do you know what actually creates motivation? Is action. Is actually taking action to do the thing that you don't want to do because you want the result that you desperately want. Here's what I'll tell you. As I share this with you, you're going to realize, you're going to probably identify people in your life that are operating like this. You're like, oh man, like I know a person like that. Or maybe it's a reflection in the mirror of like, ooh, I'm operating like that. So like, for instance, if we have certain things that we want to achieve in our life, but we're waiting for motivation, we're going to be waiting a really, really long time. The way to gain confidence and the way to create momentum and motivation in our lives is to simply take action and to keep the promises that we made to ourselves. That's how we build confidence. That's how we build motivation. So if I tell myself tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., I'm going to get up, I'm going to get dressed, I'm going to go to the gym, whether I feel like it or not, I'm doing it. Chances are you might not feel like it. Chances are there's a good chance that you won't feel like it. But if you do it anyway, that in and of itself creates motivation. Think of it this way. By taking action, what you're actually doing is you're flicking the first domino of motivation to hit the next domino, to hit the next one, to hit the next one. And maybe these dominoes represent days or activities or certain things that you're trying to execute. Doesn't really matter, but it's the first domino. And if we're waiting for that feeling of like, I need to feel like flicking this domino before I actually do it, we're probably going to be delaying our results a really, really long time. But if we're like, you know what, whether I feel like it or not, I'm doing this, boom, I just flicked the first domino. Well, now suddenly the next day of doing whatever it is that we weren't so motivated to do, suddenly we're like, hey, I got that little win. I went to the gym yesterday. I have a feather in my cap. I feel good about that. Like I kept that promise to myself. I'm going to do this again tomorrow. And then we do it again. And then we do it again. And then we do it again. And then we just keep executing. And here's what I'll tell you, man. I was not always good about this. I used to be really, really, really in tune with my feelings of whether or not I wanted to do it. And that's what I'd base my decision on. I'd be like, you know what? I don't really feel like going to the gym today. So I'm not gonna. I'll wait until I feel like it. You know what? I don't really feel like going to church today. I want to just hang out with my wife in the morning, drink some coffee, maybe make a big breakfast for the kids. I don't really feel like going to church. So I'm going to wait until I feel like doing that. I don't really feel like being disciplined to save for my retirement for the future because I want to spend that money now. I just don't really feel that motivated. But maybe when I'm older, I'll feel really motivated because I'll see that light at the end of the tunnel of like, oh shit, retirement's coming. I better start saving. No. We do these things early. We do them often, whether we feel like it or not. This is how we also raise self-starters. I want to share one quick story with you guys, and this is a bit of a brag because I was pleasantly surprised about what happened. So as I'm recording this, we were on spring break at the end of March, and we did this crazy trip. Crazy meaning it wasn't your typical spring break trip. So we are in the heat now. We have two older boys, one who's 19 and one who's 17. My 19-year-old is going to go on to paramedic school, and he's going to go to the fire academy. He's going to be a firefighter. That's what he wants to do. My 17-year-old is now looking at colleges. And during spring break, I mean, we did like the Griswold trip, if there was a college tour Griswold trip. So we left on a Sunday of spring break. We drove from St. Louis to Springfield, Missouri to see Missouri State. The next day we drove from Springfield, Missouri down to Fayetteville to go check out the University of Arkansas. Spent 2 days there. Then we got in the car and drove 6 hours all the way to Oxford, Mississippi, so we could see Ole Miss. Then on our way home from Ole Miss, we stopped by Cape Girardeau, Missouri to see Southeast Missouri State. 4 colleges, 5 days, 3 Airbnbs, 4 kids in a minivan, 25 hours of driving total, I think, that we were in that car for over 5 days. It was insanity. We had so much fun, though. We made some incredible memories, and they were goofy. They were really funny, but we had a blast. One thing that I do, though, many of you guys have been watching me on social media and on Instagram, and I'm going to be 50 in about 100 days. And about 275 days ago, I made a decision. I was like, I am no longer going to settle for average anymore as it relates to my fitness, my mentality. I'm not settling for average anymore. I want extraordinary. I want absolute extraordinary. So I stopped drinking. Not that I was a big drinker before, but I was like, alcohol doesn't really serve me. I want to be healthier in my 50s than I was in my 40s. I'm just not going to drink right now. So I haven't drank in 275 days. I've also been training. I've committed to myself 4 to 5 times of resistance training every single week. And I'm going to record all my lifts, every single lift I do, the weight, the reps, the whole 9 yards. So that way I know I'm progressively getting stronger. I'm getting better. And I have a record of it. I also incorporated intermittent fasting. I've also incorporated healthy eating. I've got it just insanely dialed in. And I've been this way. I mean, I've always been a fitness person, but this year has been remarkable. So when I travel somewhere, which is pretty often, I always check out where the local gym's at, where's healthy restaurants at, where's their Whole Foods at, so I can get some food and that kind of thing. So I knew that there was a gym in Fayetteville, and it was only like 10 minutes from us. So I got up early while we were there for 2 days. And the first day I went by myself. Second day, it was the evening of the first day. And my kids are like, what are we doing tomorrow morning? I was like, well, I'm going to get up early and I'm going to go to the gym. And then I think we're going to leave around 10 to head to Oxford to go to Mississippi. And both my boys, my older two, they're like, what time are you going to the gym? So I'm going to get up at 6. And they're like, can we go with you? I was like, yeah, of course you can. I was like, why would you want to do that though? It's spring break. You probably don't feel like doing that. Here's where we go back to like motivation, right? If we depend, and I've had conversations like this with my boys, if we depend on waiting to be motivated, our goals are also going to be put on the wait list. And here's the cool thing that came my way this past week. So I looked at my kids, my 2 older ones, and I said, why would you want to go to the gym? It's spring break. I was like, don't you guys want to sleep in? Like, we've been in the car, we've been traveling. It's like everybody's exhausted. I'm exhausted. I don't even feel like going, but I'm going to go because I know it's going to make me feel better. Why do you want to go? And my 17-year-old goes, it's off season. I train almost every day. So I haven't worked out since we left. It's been 2 days. I need to get to the gym because this is my last year of football and I'm going to make it my best. And I could not believe that came out of a 17-year-old's mouth. And then I looked at my 19-year-old and I was like, well, why do you want to go to the gym? He goes, I just like being healthy. And when I go to the gym, my mental health feels better and I feel better. So I just want to feel better. And I was like, oh, wow. Like these young men at this age, they get it. They actually get it more than us adults. And I was fascinated by that mentality. And they got up the next day. And they did it. And here's another really cool kind of side story. My 17-year-old just hit the 1,000-pound club at his high school. His high school has only been open for 13 years, and there's only 11 kids that have ever hit the 1,000-pound club at his high school. His high school is not small either. It's about 1,800 students total. But he's one of 11 people that have hit the 1,000-pound club, and it wasn't easy. It's squat, bench, and clean. Squat, bench, and clean. It's not deadlift. A lot of people think it's deadlift. At his high school, getting the 3 lifts are squat, bench, and clean, not deadlift. And I was like, wow, to hit 1,000 pounds, it seems impossible to me. He hit it. 1,017 pounds. The 11th kid in his high school history to hit it. And when I asked him, looking back on it, how did you do it? What did you do? And he told me, he's like, I worked out even when I didn't feel like it. Because I wanted that shirt. I wanted my name on that wall. And I knew that if I skipped workouts, my name would never be on that wall. And it's given me chills to even share that. Because I'm like, I got to be honest, guys. I really wish I would have had that mentality at 17. I didn't. I don't think I had that mentality in my 20s and 30s. I probably didn't get it until I really, really started dialing in this mission and how important not giving into our feelings actually is as it relates to being a man, a husband, an executor, a business owner. We're faced with things all day, every day of things that we don't want to do, but we know we have to do them. And we don't wait on motivation for some of these things. We're not motivated to pay our mortgage, but we still do it because we don't want our house taken away. We're not motivated to go put gas in our car because that's like $40, $50, $60, $70, depending on what kind of car you have. But you have to do it if you want to get back and forth to work, right? So we're faced with things that we don't want to do all the time, but yet we still find quote unquote motivation to do them. It's the extraordinary things, the things that actually set us aside from others, right? It's how we operate as a parent, how we operate as a husband, how we operate with just ourselves and our fitness, our physical body, our mental health. How do we show up at work? Are we an executor? Are we a lollygagger, right? Are we all in with parenting? Are we all in on our kids' lives? Or are we just sort of halfway there waiting for motivation? But here's the scariest thing of them all. I was reminded this past week when I went on spring break with my kids, how much being a good example for my kids is. Because my kids have seen for a very long time a dad do things that he didn't feel like doing, but he did them anyway. And maybe they learned it from me. Maybe they didn't. I don't know. I don't really care as long as they learned it. But here's what I do know. If I don't execute like that and they see me executing average or they see me lollygag something, they are going to follow suit. So whether they learned it from me or not, I don't really care. But what I do care about is they don't learn the bad habits from me, right? They don't see me lollygag in my own life. They don't see me kicking the tires in my own life. No way. I'm not doing that. I am not doing that. And here's why I tell you this. And if you need to hear this, listen good. We have one life to live. One shot at this thing called life. One shot at this thing called fatherhood. And we don't get it for that long either. 18 years, right? And we're a father our whole lives, but like our kids under our own roof, 18 years if you're lucky. We have one shot at this thing called marriage. Every single one of us are destined to the exact same ending, and that is death of this life. That's one thing we all have in common. I don't care what your political views are. I don't care what your religious views are. I don't care what you do for a living. I don't care if you have millions of dollars in the bank or you're broke. We all have the same thing at the end of this life, and that's called death. But what really matters is how are we going to live it, right? What does the dash look like between birth and death? What does that run look like? Me personally, and if you're listening to this podcast, maybe you feel the same way. I'm really interested in not leaving a damn thing on the table. Not one thing on the table. Not one. I'm going to build the best body I possibly can. I'm going to build the best mental health I possibly can. I'm going to become the most emotionally intelligent person that I can possibly become so I can have better conversations and a deeper relationship with people that mean most to me. I'm not going to leave that on the table. I'm not going to leave a stone unturned as it relates to this mission. I want every single man who listens to this podcast, every single man who comes into the Dad Edge ecosystem to do life with us in the Alliance. I want that. And why do I want that? I want that because I see men in our community thrive. I see when they come in and they start to learn different things about their marriage and about their relationships and their kids and their own mental health and their fitness and their wealth and all these different things. When they get around other like-minded men in community, they start to do these things, even on a more profound level. So yeah, I want that. I want every single guy listening to this show to live that life because I know how fantastic it feels and how fantastic it is, and I know the fruit that comes from it. That's what I want. I want every single guy who listens to this show to learn a few things that they can take into their marriage to create a better, intimate relationship with their wife and to enjoy it and to love it, to embrace it. I want every single guy who listens to this podcast to be able to go to a job, and they might not love it, but go to a job where they bring value. They go to a job that they bring something and they're fulfilled in some way, shape, or form. Or maybe a man who's a business owner and he gets to do the work that makes him come alive. And he gets to do the work that creates value for other people. And by doing so, he feels fantastic about it himself. And he feels fantastic about himself. and his own worth and what he brings to the table. And guys, we are not going to live that life, not even close to it, if we're just simply checking in on like, well, how do I feel about whatever it is I'm about ready to go do? If I don't really feel it, or if I'm not feeling it, then I'm just not going to go do it. Sorry. That is not the mentality of a winner. That is a mentality of somebody who's giving into their feelings and it's not going to execute, and they're just waiting for some miraculous inspiration to happen before they take action. Most of the time, too, those people will not sustain change for the long term because they constantly check in with their level of motivation and their feelings. Don't be that man. You have an opportunity. We have an opportunity. I do. You do. We all do. To be something unique, to be something extraordinary, to be someone who's inspirational to their kids, to their wife, to their community, to their friends. When we see another man operating at a high level, it gives the rest of us hope. It's like a beacon of light and hope. I can live that life too. I can do these things too, because that guy who's doing it, he's no smarter, no better, no different than me. The only difference is the mental aspect and the mental perspective that I'm putting towards whatever it is I'm about ready to go do. And it boils down to this. Motivation is a lie. Motivation is a lie. Action is what needs to be taken to build motivation. And as I wrap up here, remember this. It's not motivation that kicks that first domino forward. It's the action that ignites the motivation that kicks that first domino forward. Remember that. Gentlemen, that's all I got for you today on Friday. Go out and live your best life. Go out and live legendary. I love all of you guys, care about all of you guys. I am not hard to find. If I can ever help you in any way, shape, or form, shoot me a DM either on Facebook or on Instagram. It doesn't really matter. I answer both. And yes, it's me. It's not my team. It's not AI. I've actually heard AI will actually answer DMs now. I don't know about that. That will not be me. So care about you guys. Go out and take action. Do not wait for some miraculous inspiration. Take action. Go out. Kick ass. Take names, and live this legendary life. Take care.